Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call this meeting of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees to order. And Happy New Year. This is our first meeting of the new year. We will begin with our ceremony administration of the oath of office. Individuals elected to the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees in 2016. We'll begin with, and we have Deborah Feimster, District C. We have, Dr. Deborah Feimster, District C. We have Katie Simon Holland, District G. Scott Kelly, District A. Melina Raymond, District D. And myself, Angela D. Taylor, District E. This is for presentation purposes only. And the order is here. I'm not sure why I'm first, but I am. This is my mom. Hi, sweetie. Okay, whenever you're ready.
I'm not going to cry. Say aye and state your name.
I, Angela D. Taylor,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada
and the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
whether domestic or foreign,
whether domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and that I will bear true faith,
allegiance, and loyalty to the same.
allegiance, and loyalty to the same.
Any ordinance,
Resolution,
or law of any state notwithstanding,
or law of any state notwithstanding,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform all the duties of the office of school trustee,
perform all the duties of the office of school trustee,
of which I am about to enter.
of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, baby. I'm so proud of you. Okay, I'm not going to cry.
Too late. Sign and make it official. She made me cry. My hand is shaking. And these are for me. Thank you, Mom. Next, Dr. Deborah Feimster.
Nice to meet you.
Here we go. All right. Raise your right hand. State I and state your name.
I, Deborah Feimster,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada
and the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
whether domestic or foreign,
whether domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and that I will bear true faith,
allegiance, and loyalty
allegiance, and loyalty
to the same.
to the same.
Any ordinance, resolution, or law
Any ordinance, resolution, or law
of any state notwithstanding,
of any state notwithstanding,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
well and faithfully perform
all the duties of the office of school trustee.
all the duties of school trustee.
All the duties of the office of school trustee.
All the duties of the office of school trustee,
On which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Yay. That's it. Now we gotta get a picture.
Nicely done by her husband, Lonnie Feimster.
Your hand does shake, Andy.
And then your hand gets, you get emotional, your hand shakes. I know, right? Following Deborah Feimster, Katie Simon Holland.
And I'm being sworn in by my daughter, Brooke Simon.
Okay. I state your name.
I, Katie Simon Holland,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and the Constitution and government of the State of Nevada
and the Constitution and government of the State of Nevada
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
whether domestic or foreign,
whether domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and that I will bear true faith,
allegiance,
allegiance,
and loyalty to the same,
and loyalty to the same,
any ordinance,
any ordinance,
resolution, or law
resolution, or law
of any state notwithstanding,
of any state notwithstanding,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
all the duties of the office of school trustee
all the duties of the office of school trustee
on which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you, Brooke.
I love you.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Nicely done, Brooke.
Oh, your hand does shake, you're right.
I know, huh? It's like, what am I
Kind of
doing?
Thank you.
Following Katie Simon Holland is Scott Kelly.
Reading my oath is my wife, and the last time we faced each other and read something official was our wedding day.
No,
I was waiting for that.
but there'll be no ring, so,
I got one.
okay, good.
Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Scott Kelly,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government
that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the government
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and government of the State of Nevada
and the Constitution and government of the State of Nevada
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
whether domestic or foreign,
whether domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and that I will bear true faith,
allegiance, and
allegiance,
loyalty
and loyalty
to the same,
to the same,
any ordinance,
any ordinance,
resolution, or law of any state notwithstanding,
resolution, or law of any state notwithstanding,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
all the duties of the office of school trustee
all the duties of the office of school trustee
on which I'm about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And we see you had a little assistant helping to swear him in.
Oh, yes. He has lots of advice for me for schools.
I'm sure he does, a live-in expert. Finally, last but certainly not least, Melina Raymond. And tell us who's swearing you in.
My daughter, Molly Raymond, a second grader at Jesse Beck.
All right. Awesome, Molly.
I state name,
I, Melina Raymond,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada,
and the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada,
against all enemies, whether domestic or foreign,
against all enemies, whether domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear
and that I will bear
true faith, allegiance, and loyalty to the same,
and that true faith, allegiance, and loyalty to the same,
any ordinance, resolution, or law of any state notwithstanding,
any ordinance, resolution, or law of any state notwithstanding,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
all the duties of the office of school trustee
all the duties of the office of school trustee
on which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Awesome. Well, we can certainly tell who was most prepared for that now, can't we? Just saying. Alina, she has something to say. And why don't we do this? Why we have so many family members here. We're going to get into the business of our meeting, but why don't we take just a quick break so we can, take a couple selfies with our family, give them hugs, and you're certainly invited to stay for the meeting because it will be invigorating. Okay, now we will more officially call this meeting of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees to order, and we will begin with our roll call. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. It is my pleasure to call the roll of our first board meeting with all of our new board members. Deborah Feemster. Katie Simon Holland. Here. Scott Kelly.
Here.
John Mayer.
Here.
Melina Raymond.
Here.
Angela Taylor.
I'm here.
Student Representative Katie Deutsch. I'm Veronica Frankel. We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We are now, okay, great, everybody's here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're now for our Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Pastor Otto Kelly, since he's here in the audience. It's great to see you, sir. If you would mind leading us in the pledge. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you, sir. We will begin with public comment. JJ, do we have any public comment cards?
We do. Jeff Church.
Welcome, Mr. Church. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Happy New Year, a festive occasion, and welcome to everyone. And while it is a festive occasion, there is a lot on your agenda today and in the future. You have a lot ahead of you. I am Jeff Church. I run RenoPublicSafety.org that deals with local issues. As a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and police supervisor, I've studied corporate culture. I hold Nevada post certificates in management, 2 college degrees, and graduated from many courses on leadership and management. While concerned most with police and fire issues, the possible past dysfunction of the past school board has come to the attention of so many, including the Reno Gazette-Journal, the Nevada Attorney General, the former District Attorney Dick Gamick, and Community Leader Perry DiLoretto, myself, and so many others. Many, including Mr. Gamick, referred to the former board as, quote, totally dysfunctional, end quote. As this board begins, I want to address not only the symptoms of the problems, but perhaps the root cause. I urge you to lead and not be led. I urge you to start afresh. I have presented you with a handout of research and suggestions. Before you address issues, I urge you to address the corporate culture that brought us here today. I have presented basic suggestions for your review. 3 primary suggestions include the need for an independent review of any alleged dysfunctional culture in the overall Washoe County School District. Please consider contracting for an outside expert to review and help mend any issues with corporate culture and leadership. Secondly, I address the long history of ongoing lawsuits and litigation that needs to be addressed and can't continue. Based on court records, I listed just 18 legal actions in the last 3 years in state court alone, not counting federal court. Many of these already costing WCSD taxpayers millions of dollars better spent on educating children. Then I addressed the WC1 capital project issue. I strongly suggest that you consider an independent, outside fiscal watchdog and guarantee you that he or she would pay for himself or herself many times over and restore public confidence that the Washoe County 1 money will be spent wisely. The so-called oversight committee that met only once in 2016 for about an hour is not capable of adequately reviewing a multi-million-dollar budget with dozens and dozens of projects. I look forward to addressing you in the future with more specifics on related matters and possibly seeking a position for myself on the Board of Trustees at the end of Ms. Frankel's term. I have applied for a position on your volunteer oversight committee and hope you'll address that in short order. The future of your corporate culture begins today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Church.
Christine Ray.
Welcome, Ms. Ray. We'll have you right there. You'll have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me, and congratulations to all of you, and thank you for your service to our community. My name is Christine Ray, and I am the mother of 3 boys who attend both DePoli and Brown Elementary School. And I'm joined with many Brown parents today to show our support for why we come before you today. I am also an employee of Washoe County School District. I work at Pine Middle School part-time. I come to you today to ask you to reconsider putting Brown Elementary on multi-track year-round school. It will negatively affect our family life and our children's education. My family has been at Brown ever since my oldest was in kindergarten, and we have been through year-round school there before. When I was a stay-at-home mom, it wasn't a big deal. We could be flexible, and it was not a big deal for our family. However, now I have children at multiple schools, at DePoli and Brown, and will for the next 4 years. This will cause a negative impact to our family, not only the time we have together, but vacations to go see our other family members. And also financially, it will be a hardship. I went back to work part-time with the school district so I could be home with my kids before and after school and when they're off breaks. And it works perfect. I love my little part-time job. My kids are my first priority, and as a result, we struggle financially, but that's a sacrifice we've chosen to make. If I continue my part-time job at Pine, we will all have different schedules. And I'll have to pay for childcare when my kids are off track, what's the point of working then? I know there's many families in this room that are in a similar situation as well as at our school community. At Brown this year, our enrollment was down. We even lost allocations. One of my son's classrooms were directly affected by that, and it was hard on the teachers and students. We've lost many great teachers at the end of the school year last year because we're going multi-track year-round. And on year-round school, the quality of our teaching suffers. The teachers aren't able to collaborate with each other. Behavior issues arise, having the same kids on the same track year after year, and teachers have no classroom to call home. And I know you know all of this. We all wish the circumstances were different, but only you can grant us more time. As parents, we worked very hard to get WC1 passed. We made videos and mailed postcards and rallied community support. With WC1 passing, we are now told we're only 2 years or 3 years away from a new school in the South Meadows area. There's multiple charter schools working to open their doors down there, but our love lies with Brown. We don't want to have to change our families. Ms. Bryant and her staff are doing a phenomenal job managing what we have right now. And so as a parent, as an employee, I implore you, please grant us more time on the balanced calendar and not make us go year round. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ray.
Tracy Saragoli.
Did we get that right, Saragoli?
Cherigioli.
Cherigioli. So the answer would be no, we did not.
The answer would be no, but unless you're Italian or know to read Italian, you wouldn't know.
Well, welcome, Ms.
Okay.
Cherigioli. You have
Thank
3
you.
minutes,
I
ma'am. Thank
really
you.
appreciate the opportunity to come and speak. I, like Christine, am a parent at Brown Elementary School. I have 2 students there, 1st and 5th grader. We've been at Brown 6 years since last time we were on multi-track. I've volunteered countless hours and been very involved. I'm super invested in Brown, and I love our elementary school. Like a lot of other families, next year we'll be facing different schedules for different kids, different children. I'll have a son at DePaul and a child at Brown. Lots of us are in this situation. Not only does this disrupt our family time in terms of activities, just quality time together and vacations, but it also causes a hardship with childcare, making it more difficult and more costly during the breaks. I am also here today to ask you to consider multi-track at Brown, reconsider multi-track at Brown. When the decision to move us to multi-track was made, it seemed inevitable given the circumstances that we were facing. But now, as of today, circumstances have changed. Our numbers are down at Brown so dramatically, in fact, that as Christine mentioned, we lost several allocations this year. Secondly, WC1 passed, thank you, and we now have a new school coming into our area scheduled to be open in the next couple of years. So to me, when our school is already running so well, despite the numbers, with Angie Bryan's direction and the staff so committed to making it a smoothly operating school, and given the short time frame that we have before a new school opens, it makes no sense to me to disrupt our lives for a short period of time. I understand projections and I understand the percentages and triggers of when we have to go multi-track, but those numbers don't reflect what's actually happening at our school, and that is we are better together. If we are allowed to stay on the balanced calendar, it makes us a cohesive community rather than being fragmented. It allows for crucial teacher collaboration, which is integral to the amazing education that our kids are getting at Brown Elementary School. It saves the district hundreds of thousands of dollars in operating costs every year, and it just improves the quality of our family lives altogether. We're talking about 1 to 2 years. We've got this. We've been doing it. It's what's best for our kids, our families, our school, and our community as a whole. So I respectfully ask you, please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chair Julie.
Julie Bowen.
Welcome, Ms. Bowen, right there. You have 3
Thank you.
minutes.
Okay, so I'm kind of going to repeat a little bit what they said. My name is Julie Bowen. I am a teacher. I worked in Clark County for many years. I've experienced year-round school as well. I'm a school volunteer and a mother of 3, and I'm asking you also to please reconsider placing Brown on the back to the balanced calendar. We've been a Brown family for over 9 years. This upcoming fall, that may change for our family, being that I'm going to have a middle schooler and a high schooler and an elementary school. So my older girls will be on balanced calendar, and my youngest will be potentially on the year-round schedule. For the last several years, I have worked as a substitute teacher for Washoe County, kind of feeding my soul the teaching part that I miss. However, that will also have to change if we go back to the balanced calendar because I will have no one to watch my son while I'm working. My family and I, along with many families, have worked hard also to advocate for Washoe County 1, and like many others, we were absolutely thrilled when it passed. I have written letters to the board as well, previous board, and some of you are still there, and I've received responses saying that yes, indeed, we are on the upcoming track to get the school in our area. In addition, I've been active in the Brown PTO, including volunteering as the president, the secretary, and coordinator positions over many years. I've seen the hard work that goes into keeping our school a close-knit community and the challenges our school faces when our students and staff are always on a rotating schedule. There is always a track that will miss school, carnival night, or an art night, or many other school-sponsored events. There will always be a track that misses out on reading week assemblies or fundraising events. There will always be staff members absent from team building and grade level cooperative activities. Children will always miss instruction time, even though they try very, very hard not to make that happen as they transition from classroom into the new one and out of the old one. There's also the issue of responsible spending. The costs associated with keeping schools running on the multi-track year-round school are high. Aside from lighting, powering, air conditioning, and heating for year-round school, schools are also employing staff, counselors, administrators, custodians go year-round, and their cost currently is based, or the contract rather, is based on a traditional 9-month schedule. Adding those extra months is an extra cost to the district as well. Additionally, with the passage of Washoe County 1, the district has said there will be a new elementary in our area. Yay! Furthermore, there are a few options available to families, including private schools and charter schools, which some are trying to open as soon as this fall, which has also caused the student population at Brown to decrease. As both Christine and Tracy have mentioned, we've lost staff due to our smaller enrollment, which is a good thing for our school school size, but not for our staff. The portable structures that we currently have in place, as well as other accommodations that have been in place to keep us off year-round, have been successful. There are too many positive reasons to keep Brown functioning the way it is now to transition us to year-round. Lastly, many of our staff members have left Brown, but also the ones who have stayed have children of their own who are going to be dealing with a balanced calendar versus multi-track. We've lost many excellent staff members, and many more are sure to follow. Our children deserve the best. There's too much loss to our community, academically, fiscally, and most importantly, to our family time. Please consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen.
Darcy Bartolome.
Bartolome, how was that?
That's perfect.
Okay, good. Thank you. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, good afternoon. My name's Darcy. I'm not only a parent, but I am the PTO's VP. I have some insight from the teachers at Brown Elementary since they couldn't be here due to the fact that they're with their students. The first one is from a first grade teacher. Dear members of the school board, I'm a longtime teacher for the Washoe County School District, and I'm ready to express my concern about Brown Elementary going to year-round calendar for the 17-18 school year. As a teacher who has experience working on the traditional calendar, multi-track year-round calendar, and the balanced calendar, I have several concerns about reverting to the multi-track year-round calendar. My first concern is about the impact of the cohesiveness and opportunity for the collaboration of staff. With a year-round schedule, there is very little opportunity for the entire grade level or staff to meet together. With the emphasis, time, and money the district has spent on implementing PLCs within our schools, it seems a shame to be counterproductive and take away the ability of these groups to meet in a productive way. In addition, the designation of tracks for teachers causes conflict within the grade levels and with administration. Another concern is teachers and students having to move classrooms several times throughout the year. This poses a hardship on teachers and does directly affect the quality of teaching. When teachers have their own supplies and resources distributed throughout the school in several different classrooms, their teaching is in fact impacted. As a teacher and a parent, I'm very concerned with the fact that 3/4 of the 5th grade students will have a 1 to 2 week break before entering a rigorous middle school experience and switch back to the balanced calendar schedule. This is not setting up the students for success, which should be a priority of the school district and school board. I conclude with the opinion that the transition to the multi-track year-round calendar is not needed as a temporary fix. I understand the district has developed a formula for determining when the school triggers a year-round, but that formula is flawed. It does not account for the mobile classrooms already on campus and currently being used. The so-called hardship on the main building, lunchroom, library does not equate to the amount of taxpayer money spent on being on the year-round schedule. As a school that is currently operating with fewer students than last year, it has the possibility of losing allocation, and it seems irresponsible to destroy one of your best elementary schools in the district. Sincerely, Angie Woodley. I have one more letter from a 2nd grade teacher. Dear school board members, our school is the essence of our community. There is nothing more important than a student's education. Our school community was disrupted for 5 years and was crippled due to the multi-track schedule. I was so pleased to learn that the WCSD Board of Education made the decision to support us in moving to the balanced calendar for Brown Elementary School. Our district faces many positive changes through our strategic plan. If we are truly committed to reaching every child by name and face to graduation, then we need to continue keeping all schools on the balanced calendar. As a member of our school's multi-year committee, I believe our school's current enrollment will allow us to remain on the balanced calendar until the new schools opens in 2018. At this time, we'd like to ask to be put on the agenda for either January or February to make this as a call to action and have you guys vote.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Ms. Bartolome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for being here.
Nathan Dupree.
Mr. Dupree, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm going to ask
Got 3 minutes, sir.
the ACON pastors to join me here. Good afternoon, Superintendent Davis, and to the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees. It is our pleasure to be here with you today. We are here on behalf of ACON. ACON is the African American Clergy Council of Northern Nevada. So I'm joined here by Pastor Otto Kelly and Pastor Larry Holloway. Now, it's 3 of us, so I get my 3 minutes, he get his 3 minutes, and he get his 3 minutes.
Speak on my behalf.
I'm kidding. I was just saying we talk a lot. But
Your pastors.
we have actually, it's a privilege to be here today, and we actually are here to just offer our congratulations to you all today. So I want to read a letter from the African American Clergy Council. On behalf of the African American Clergy Council of Northern Nevada, we would like to offer our congratulations to Dr. Angela Taylor, Dr. Deborah Feemster, Katie Simon Holland, Scott Kelly, and Marlita Raymond for being elected to the Washoe County School Board of Trustees. We believe in the work of the school board and pledge our support to the Board of Trustees. Our prayer is that with this stellar team of elected officials, that every child will meet and excel above the standards required for graduation and will be inspired to lead a life of success. ACON honors the Washoe County School Board. We stand beside you all, offering up our prayers, advice, and support to our collective wisdom that we see here today as educators to the successful 2017 school year and a brighter future for families and students that we all work on behalf of. Again, congratulations and blessings to you all.
Thank you, pastors. Those are three pastors that spoke in less than 3 minutes. We need to. It really is. We appreciate you being here and thank you for your support. We have received no other public comment cards. Is there anyone else that wanted to make public comment? We can get a card from you after. Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to agenda item 1.06. This is action to adopt the agenda, recognizing any items may be taken out of order if so desired by the board. I will mention to the board that agenda item number 4.08 has been pulled. It's the agenda item regarding the policy for internal audit department. There were several recommended changes by the internal audit committee, so it's going to go back to the policy committee before coming here. So other than agenda item 4.08, are there any other? Yes, Trustee Holland.
Madam President, I just wanted to ask a question of order. If we want to request items to be taken out of the consent agenda, do we wait till we get to the consent agenda, or is that done now?
We do. We do that when we get to the consent agenda. You can move any items out of that you like.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're very welcome. Anything else on the agenda? Okay, then I will entertain the motion to accept the agenda as amended with the exception of agenda item 4.08.
Move for approval as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposition? Okay, the motion is carried, and let the record show that it is unanimous. Next item on the agenda is agenda item 2.01. This is discussion, and this is for discussion and possible action. This is the process for nomination and election of trustees. We did send an informational email to all of the colleagues around the table, but for the public, I've asked our Chief General Counsel, Neil Rombardo, just to quickly go through it so the public knows the process that we're going to follow.
Well, quickly, we'll take nominations on each position. We'll go one at a time, 2.02, 2.03, 2.04. Take nominations. The nominations will be closed. The president will then call for a motion going in order of the nominations as they were received. Once a motion carries, that person will be elected to the position. And the motion needs a second standard process for motions. Any questions?
Any questions from my colleagues on the board? Okay, seeing none, we will begin with board nominations and election of the president of the Board of Trustees from among the following, and all of us are mentioned: Trustee Feemster, Trustee Franco, Trustee Holland, Trustee Kelly, Trustee Mayer, Trustee Raymond, and Trustee Taylor. And this is for possible action. We'll accept any nominations, and nominations do not need a second.
Madam Chair.
Trustee Mayer?
I make a motion that we elect Angela Taylor for office of president.
We have one nomination. Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Okay, seeing none, then the nominations are closed, and so we'll take a vote at this time. Absolutely. Okay, so then I'll accept. I'll look for a motion. A second? Okay, well, it's getting that out, but it's out now. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that myself, Angela Taylor, serve as president of the school board of trustees for the 2017 school year. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? The motion is carried, and let the record show it is unanimous, and thank you. It is an honor to serve. So thank you very much to my colleagues. I appreciate your confidence. We're going to have a great year. We're going to have a great year. Okay, agenda item 2.03. This is board nominations and election of vice president of the Board of Trustees from among the following: Trustee Feimster, Trustee Frankel, Trustee Holland, Trustee Kelly, Trustee Mayer, Trustee Raymond, and I won't service both, so I'll just take my name off of that. Looking for any nominees, any nominations. Again, nominations do not need a second. Yes, Trustee Frankel.
I'd like to nominate Katie Simon Holland as our vice president.
Okay, there's a nomination. Are there any other nominations on the floor for vice president? Seeing none, the nominations are closed, and so we'll take that as a motion. Trustee Frankel, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Katie Simon Holland to serve as vice president of the board for 2017. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous, and congratulations, Trustee Holland. Looking forward to serving together. And then finally, agenda item 2.04. This is board nominations and election of clerk of the Board of Trustees from among the following: Trustee Feimster, Trustee Frankel, Trustee Kelly, Trustee Mayer, Trustee Raymond, and Trustee Raymond. So we're looking for any nominations at this time. Again, Trustee, I see two hands up. We'll take both nominations. Yes.
Nominate Scott Kelly as our clerk.
Okay, I have a nomination. Yes, Trustee Mayer, another nomination. Okay, I'll come back to you for a second if necessary. Any other nominations for the office of clerk? Okay, this is getting easy. So there are no other nominations. Nominations are closed. We'll take Trustee Frankel. We'll take that as a motion. Seconded by Trustee Mayer. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. And unanimous. Congratulations, Clerk Kelly. Clerk Kelly. Okay, now we will have a 15-minute recess. This is traditionally when we'll do a little reorg here at the table, and I believe we'll also take our board photo at this time, and any other family members that we'd like to greet, and someone we can do that at this time. The board is in recess for 15 minutes. Okay, we're actually close to 15 minutes on that break, so that's very, very good start.
Good start.
Very good start, very good start. We will call the meeting back to order. Thank you, colleagues, for repositioning to allow the officers to be close. I really, really appreciate that. Okay, we're going to go with board reports, and for the new colleagues, what board reports entail is boards giving the board members, colleagues giving any report on any school visit they may have attended, anything they may have done on behalf of the district that might be of interest to everyone. You may have seen an interesting program. A student may have done something outstanding. Just to share with each other, because there are so many schools and only so few of us. But this allows us sometimes to see what's going on, and sometimes in other districts, and just some things in the district that we may have missed to share that. And again, sometimes something really gets your attention because it was something pretty special, or a student or a teacher or something like that. So that's our time doing board reports. We just go around the table, and I just generally start at different ends of the table, and we certainly make sure that we include Katie for reports from the Student Advisory Board and what they're doing, and then we go right from there into the superintendent's report, and she does the same from her perspective. So I know we have been on break, so there may not have been much, but if anyone has a board report, just raise your hand. Well, why don't we just do it in that order? Okay. All right. Yes. Trustee Kelly.
I visited the school district's Extended Studies Department, and just to learn about some of the great work that they do with Extended Studies. And then, of course, all of us were part of the orientation. We had 2 orientation meetings last month, and those were great to learn, get a quick snapshot of where the school district's at. And so that's it.
Outstanding. That's basically how that goes. Yes, Trustee Mayer. Thank you, Trustee Kelly.
Well, I had 8 schools scheduled for intercession. Needless to say, I didn't make a one. I was under the weather, and then I was really under the weather with the flood, and I have some properties that got flooded, and so I didn't make a single one. But in talking to one of my neighbors that I asked him to go to the one at Sparks High School, he said it was fantastic, that he now knows what he has to do in order to graduate in June. He has it all mapped out, and they helped him to determine how he's going to do it. And he said it was a wonderful experience. So I take him as his word because he's a great little kid. And so congratulations. I know it was tough to get an intercession in with the flood and stuff. And so congratulations on the work that they did. I think there were 34 sites available for students, so that was terrific.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. Yes, Trustee Holland.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to thank the staff and the entire team for the great job on the flood preparations and planning and response. I know many of the schools were affected and the transportation yard, et cetera. So I know a lot of long hours were put in by a lot of staff members, and just wanted to say thank you.
And just to add on to that, thank you, Trustee Holland. The communication to us as board members, I thought was very helpful to know all the things that were going on, when schools were being closed and just challenges that you were facing. Just allowed us to stay on top of it, and when people were to ask us, we could be knowledgeable, in our response. And I know there were a lot of things going on, and you guys are going, and especially Dr. Deputy, thank you, because I know you were holding it down because, one person was across the country at a meeting and someone else was in another country. But we know that you held it down and kept everything going and still kept us in the loop. So we just really appreciate that. So great job. Kudos to you and the team that kept us informed of those great things, that great work that was going on. So thank you. Okay. Superintendent Davis.
Correction, I was here for one day and the deputy was making sure I got my other work done for community meetings. So great that we have a great kickoff with this new board and the work we're going to do for our 65,000 students. I just want to read a little email, and then I'm going to have our emergency manager come up and give a quick update since it's a new year. But I think this speaks volumes about the team, and I can tell you, every time I would send a text with a question, it was already done, right? And Kristen's like, enough, Tracy, it's covered. You just wait till we tell you what you need to know. So they were like on it, and so to Pete's team, and everybody, communications. I know, Charles, you worked the emergency command center with the county overnight. Like, we were everywhere, so I appreciate the staff's entire effort. But I think this email really speaks volumes about how prepared we were. Pete, I don't know who made the decision to sandbag about 150 yards of our playground fence line, but I am so grateful for the effort and forethought. The sandbagging prevented a great deal of damage to our schools and grounds. On Saturday, I came to check on the school, and the crew was in the process of lining our fence and draining the ditch that ran parallel to the playground. When checking on the school on Sunday afternoon, the ditch was running very high, and the sandbags were preventing the water from breaching our playground. Even with the sandbags, the large amount of water washed a great deal of dirt and debris into our parking lot. When I arrived at school this morning, the grounds crew had already cleared up most of the parking lot, enabling staff to park. I am so impressed with the preventative actions that was taken and the efficiency of the ground crew. I can tell you many principals checked on their buildings on the weekend, but I'll tell you there were already people there helping them out in advance. And so on behalf of the administrators, they appreciate what you guys did on the operations side also, so that they could come back into their buildings and take care of the students. So thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Jim, Mr. Emergency Manager, and you can talk a little bit about the update, and that will conclude my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
Just get your mic on. Oh. There it is.
How about that?
There it is.
All right. So thank you, Superintendent, President Taylor, and trustees. For the record, I'm Jim Hendrickson. I'm the district's emergency manager. And I just want to run through a couple of things regarding, apparently it was raining this week, and some of the things that were occurring. So by way of context and background, if you're not familiar, the district runs in compliance with the National Incident Management System and the Incident Command System, which is the national standard. We're fully integrated with the Regional Emergency Management and Coordination Group and hold a seat at the Regional EOC. So part of what we do is we conduct daily surveillance, and by surveillance I mean we watch the news reports, the weather reports, a lot of different information sources that come in, and we're always just constantly looking for emerging issues or trends or something that could be a problem. And we started to see early last week the build of this storm that was coming in. So we began our preparations on Wednesday, talking with the county about doing some sheltering and starting to warm up the district to have to respond to this. By Thursday, it was apparent that this was going to be a big storm. We activated our EOC, brought our district emergency response team together, and had that first planning meeting that we launched all of these preparations and preventative measures and mitigation measures to prepare the district for the onslaught of this storm. So all day Friday and all day Saturday, we were out there. You already mentioned sandbags, thousands upon thousands of sandbags at our schools, at our bus yards, and really trying to prepare ourselves for all the anticipated potential flooding issues that we thought we might have. And then, of course, Sunday, the storm rolled in as expected. And all day Monday, we spent out responding to the issues presented by the storm. As in anything, we can anticipate things, and there are things that will surprise us. One of the things that surprised everybody in the region was the rapidity with which the steamboat water drainage came up. By 1:30 in the afternoon, we were already having flooding inside houses, street flooding, sewer drains backed up, you name it. Whole south and west Arena was really under a lot of water. And for information, the area of the Galena Creek drainage, 5 inches of rain in 48 hours out there. Colossal amount of water. And then, so yesterday was a lot of response things, and as President Taylor already responded, so we try to keep you up to date on everything that was going on during that. And then today what we've been doing is essentially recovery efforts, looking at what damage we took, and we are part of a formalized preliminary damage assessment teams that are working throughout the region, looking at our schools and putting that into the regional system for the potential of a nationally declared disaster and reimbursement from the federal government for the damages incurred here. So we're part of that, and we're out there doing that right now. As of yesterday, we had about 21 of our schools that were impacted by water intrusion of some kind, leaking roofs, primarily water into the doors, that kind of thing. The good news is we did not have a river of mud flow into the cafeteria of any of our schools. The flooding, the water intrusion, really fairly minimal in our schools. Bus yards took a little more of a hit. South Yard, we had sandbagged, but due to the amount of water in Steamboat Creek, it came over into our parking lot there. We have a lot of mud, a lot of debris, a little bit of building damage, not too bad, but the South Yard was impacted more heavily than we had anticipated. If you want to look at this slide, this is a map that was published on Friday by the Truckee Meadows Water Authority with their expected flood levels. And when this map was put up on the wall at the regional EOC during our meeting, everybody just sat there with their mouths open looking at how bad this was going to be. And this is based on a 21-foot flood depth for the river. The ultimate crest was a 19.5 feet, so just under what this map indicated. The good part was it was very helpful in doing some planning and stuff. One of the things that we know from past history is that our Ghetto Transportation Center, which is up there just off the freeway by Vista, was going to be heavily impacted. We moved over 300 vehicles out of there. We pumped more than 20,000 gallons of diesel fuel out of the tanks, sealed off our fuel oil separators. Literally, we have 2 1,500-gallon propane tanks out there. We called the propane company. They came out, sealed them off, unbolted them, threw them on a truck, and left. So that would have been something to see floating down Sparks Boulevard. So we completely neutralized that yard and prepped it for the flooding, but also we saved all of our equipment. Along with that, we did the planning for continuing operation of our transportation, knowing we would not be back in that yard. All those buses were distributed to both Reed High School primarily, but also the north and south yards, and so that this morning we were able to be fully operational with our transportation facilities. Here's a photograph that was taken yesterday morning by the city of Sparks from a drone that shows our yard and how much water is in there. So it looks pretty bad. However, I have some good news. At about 12:30 today, we went over there and were able to get into the building, and the damage is actually very minimal. We're going to lose the carpets, maybe a little bit of wall intrusion, but overall the facility is in good shape. We were already talking about being able to move the buses back to the yard later this week. The building will not be functional, but the yard will be as far as the buses and so forth. So we got very fortunate with the preventative measures of sandbagging 4 feet up the walls of that place. Things went very well. So a lot of good news to report with the transportation yard. A couple of the other things that were done out there is I mentioned the thousands of sandbags, and I really want to call out the folks that were out there on Friday and Saturday in the cold and the wet filling those sandbags. I mean, thousands of them. And today I was talking to one of our sergeants in the police force saying, I was lucky we were not moving sandbags on Saturday, and guess what I was doing at noon today? Moving sandbags. One of the things I didn't mention is Worcester High School. We identified early 2 sheltering locations, which would have been Sparks High School and Worcester High School as community shelters. We ended up sheltering over 180 people at Worcester. And the county did a lot of the work. Red Cross did a lot of the work on managing those folks. I know that Leah, the principal out there, was heavily involved in making sure that Worcester went smoothly. All those folks were moved out of there last evening. The gym was clean, and by the time students returned this morning, that school was 100% functional for educational activities. The last thing I want to do is talk real quick about where we are right now. And here's a graph that is kind of those half full, half empty things. I want you to look, see the green line that goes way up there? That's the 82-83 water year. Water years run from October 1st to September 30th. That's the wettest year in recorded history. If you look over on the left, see that blue line? That's this year. We are way ahead of the wettest year in recorded history right now. As of yesterday afternoon, this region had 85% of the entire annual amount of rainfall for this area. That does not include the rain that's fallen today or the rain that's going to come from this new storm that's falling this weekend or the next couple of days. So if you're a skier, I highly recommend this Saturday, and you may be skiing in August if the snow keeps up as it is right now. From an emergency management standpoint, it kind of gives me a little bit of a shake on that, on how much water is coming potentially. So right now, as of 3:20 in the afternoon today, some things to be aware of. Highway 395 south of Carson City is closed. The Mount Rose Highway is closed due to both snow and avalanche danger. Highway 80 headed into California is closed at Verdi all the way to Colfax. So essentially the Reno, Truckee Meadows area is cut off from civilization. The nearest large city is Salt Lake City that can actually get to us right now. Last night, over 2 feet of snow at Incline. This morning's weather briefing is calling for 5 to 10 feet of snow up there the next 2 days. A little bit higher on Mount Rose, Incline Village itself, 2 to 4 feet probably in the next couple of days. The decision was made just shortly before this meeting to close the Incline schools. There's a blizzard warning in effect up there, and the next couple of days in the mountains are really truly going to be terrible. Weather down here, rain, snow, the Weather Service isn't quite sure if we're going to be snowing or raining, and it's going to be cold and wet the next couple of days. The good side is starting Friday, we're going to dry out for at least 5 or 6 days, and things should look better for us next week. So, and that is the conclusion of my remarks, and I'll turn it back over to President Taylor. Thank you.
Well, all I can say is wow. I mean, the work that your team did was just amazing. It's really good to see this is when we can do our part for community partnerships and open up our schools, and just the foresight to do all the things that were done to move the buses and protect the schools and the playgrounds, little things that get parking lots ready. I mean, that's the kind of thing that makes doing what the teachers do every day matter and really make it important. So thank you. We just got to give them a hand for all that work. My goodness. I mean, I knew you guys were good, but you really, really, really outdid yourselves. So thank you. Thank you very much, very much. Okay, next on the agenda is our consent agenda. And then as asked by Trustee Holland, any matters on the consent agenda, they're generally considered routine. However, any trustee can pull something from the consent agenda to ask questions and have further conversation. We can consider that separately if anybody desires. So is there anyone that would like to pull an agenda item? And obviously you asked that for a reason. Trustee Holland?
Thank you, Madam President. There were several that I just had questions that I wanted to get on the record and have the answers on the record to. 4.05, which was the proposed revision of Board Policy 6111. 4.06, which is the final approval for the proposed adoption of Board Policy 6800, special education. 4.07, which is the final of the proposed revision of Board Policy 9100 on committees. And 4.13. And then on 4.15, I didn't need to have it pulled for questions, but I just wanted to make sure that the eligibility requirements were on the record in this meeting when we had the conversation about approving the early separation.
Okay, so we have agenda items that we have 5 different agenda items: 4.05, 06, 07, 0.13, and 0.15 that will be pulled and considered, just considered separately, not removed, but considered separately for information or for questions, whichever. Any other agenda items colleagues would like to pull for separate consideration? Okay, seeing none, then I will entertain the motion to approve the consent agenda as amended with the and then don't forget, consent agenda item 4.08 was already pulled. And so we can go back to the policy committee meeting. So I'll entertain the motion to approve the consent agenda items 4.01 through 4.04, 4.09 through 4.12, 4.14, 4.16, and 4.17.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. So we will ask for staff that are here for agenda item 4.05 to please come forward. And then Vice President Holland, if you would, you can begin to ask questions and we can get that information out there as you desire.
Thank you, Madam President. And I do want to thank the staff for providing responses to my questions. And again, I just wanted to get that on the record. The first question that I had, and thank you, staff, for the great backup work on this. One of the things that was mentioned in the staff report was when policy 6111 was last discussed in December, and I happened to be here for that meeting, there was a discussion of extenuating circumstances to affect the schedule of the conversion. And so and there are 3 questions I had, so I'll just get all the questions out if that's okay, and then you can answer them all at once. So just wanted to make a reference to what the recommendation is concerning what constitutes extenuating circumstances. And then second, I wanted to make sure that we referenced that we were taking into account the timing of permitted and planned growth versus our construction schedules for the triggering of multi-track year-round schools. As was mentioned by some of the Brown parents, we'll have a new school in 3 years. How do we incorporate the expense that we're going to invest in multi-track year-round into our decisions with regard to those construction schedules? And then third, there isn't a specific criteria on the multi-track year-round conversion policy decision that relates to the cost benefit of going to multi-track year-round versus doing something else. And I know that when the board considers the management plan, that those alternatives are evaluated for their cost benefit. But I just wanted to have staff comment on those 3 questions, if that's okay, and I'd be happy to repeat them if I've gone on too long.
Good afternoon, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board. Once, congratulations as well for all of your new seats. Deputy Superintendent Kristen McNeil. So Vice President Holland, how would you like us to read the responses that we sent actually to you all so that they are on the record? Would that be appropriate for you? Would that
Or
be
if you just
acceptable?
want to summarize the responses, just the key highlights, whatever you want to make sure we have for the public's consumption.
Okay. all right.
Sounds like the key thing is to get the information on the record.
Correct. Okay. So I will turn this over to Dr. LaMarca and then our Chief of Staff, David Lasik, and then myself, and we'll tag team it and get all the answers for you.
For the record, Paul LaMarca, Chief School Performance Officer. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm a little bit under the weather. Yeah, might want to go that way. Wash up. I'm going to read the responses, and then if you want summary after, just so that we have it on the record. So in response to the first question, the extenuating circumstances were more or less defined as schools not having any prior notice / ability to complete a school overcrowding management plan. Therefore, the exception was added that if a school hadn't had a chance to conduct a SOMP, school overcrowding management plan, that they would be able to, and trustees could grant a year waiver for multi-track year-round. So in summary, what I would suggest is that we need something that triggers this process. But allowing for the SOMP to be completed really allows any extenuating circumstance that might be present to be heard and discussed. The second question, in light of passage WC1, we need to consider taking into account the timing of permitted planned growth versus construction schedules and triggering multi-track year-round. The response. Enrollment projections must, per the regulation, be for 3 years to trigger actions. While it doesn't say it specifically in the proposed policy, Part C leads staff to believe that the conversion threshold would also follow for the same 3-year period, meaning that the new school construction is factored into the conversion threshold, since that would also be factored into the projections. The third question, there is currently no specific criteria reference for evaluating the cost benefit of multi-track year-round implementation versus other options. And I would argue that this needs to be an explicit part. That's your question, sorry. The response is that cost analysis is factored into evaluation of the plans. The conversion threshold was meant to be primarily about safety, where it was felt as school was too overcrowded and therefore cost was not factored in. Sure.
Vice President Holland, I want to make sure that, I mean, all of that was really good information to add in, and I want to make sure that that was thoroughly covered those things for you.
I absolutely appreciated that, and thank you, staff, very thorough, and it was also really prompt and timely, so appreciate that. I would also, I absolutely understand not making safety decisions based on cost benefit. I also feel that there might be a role for consideration of cost benefit when we look at the decision to go to multi-track year-round. So that's not on the table right now, but I would like to maybe have us consider how that might come back at a future time.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President Holland. Anything else on agenda item 4.05? Okay, hearing none, then I will entertain a motion for approval.
And I would move approval with the consideration of those responses. Thank you, staff.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. Staff, thank you very much. Dr. LaMarca, feel better. Thank you for being here. We appreciate those responses. That was good stuff to get into the record, so thank you, Vice President Holland. We'll move on to agenda item 4.06. If staff involved in those could move forward so that a couple of questions can go forth. This is board policy number 6800, special education, which includes language related to students receiving special education services for possible action. And I saw those questions as well, so.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, staff. I wanted to have us have an opportunity to get on the record the discussion of qualified versus effective. And you did provide us a great response, and it was quite thorough, so perhaps we can summarize that response about where that language comes from. So that's the first question is qualified versus effective. And In the policy statement, actually in the red line draft, we use effective and then qualified and effective in the same paragraph, and I don't know if we wanted to harmonize those. And then my second question was, in the definitions in the policy, there's no definition of what effective means, and so I know you have some responses to that. Third, is there anything we need to say about the use of adjusted diplomas in our policy? And then lastly, there were public comments that were attached to the agenda item, and I just wanted to have the staff have an opportunity on the record to respond to those public comments. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Byron Green, Chief Student Services Officer, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board, and David Freeman, Executive Director, who did a fantastic job providing you much data in that regards. In regards for question number one, and David can expound, because I know he was, if you had a chance to look at the board recording, there was quite a discussion with the previous board members regarding effective versus qualified. I think this really comes down to the whole change of No Child Left Behind versus the new requirements for ESSA. So I know that in part of your question, Trustee, you stated that you prefer both being in the statement of qualified and effective. That can easily be done, but I know David can speak to if there's other additional questions regarding qualified versus effective.
Mr. Friedman.
Good afternoon, David Friedman, Executive Director, Student Services. So when we had the discussion initially about qualified versus effective, qualified is merely a teacher passing a test. So we have many, and especially with No Child Left Behind, every teacher in Title I schools had to be highly qualified. The federal, every ESSA, Every Student Succeed Act has really looked at eliminating qualified and moving more towards a model of highly effective. So our thought process was aligning ourselves with that, and also with the school district's framework, the teacher evaluation rubric, where teachers are evaluated from highly effective to ineffective. So we wanted to align ourselves with that. I think we could easily put in qualified and effective, but our goal and our thought process was really looking at the language now that are put into federal and our state law to ensure that. And I think the second question was there in the policy, we didn't define effective, what effective looks like. And that is true. However, in the PGS, the professional growth system, that is clearly defined in many different areas. And I think I gave you just one area where it showed you what does an effective teacher look like, and I gave you some bullet points on that. So there is a defined system already of evaluating a teacher and identifying if they're effective or not. And then there's a system if a teacher's not effective, how do we go about that and ensuring that we're providing them support and hopefully getting them over to the effective range. So.
Please.
Just on that point, and I don't know, I know this is the final adoption of this policy, it might be worthwhile to have in the definitions, effective is defined as what we use in our professional growth system.
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest that same thing, because there is, and I think you may have mentioned it in your question, the word definitions is there, and maybe it's something that can be added to make that clear there towards it. It doesn't matter, because if, for the way the process, appointed process, if it gets changed, it would just go back out for another review period, so we can certainly still make changes at this point.
Well, and I don't want to create a giant amount of work that's not going to add value. I just know that it's better for the public to have it all in one place, because they wouldn't know that they need to go reference something that's an internal document that they can't get to anyway, the professional.
We definitely could add that.
Trustee Frankel?
I just wanted to chime in and thank you for the information and the explanation. And I know I was part of the conversation around qualified and effective at the last meeting where we discussed this. I think the suggestion, if I'm hearing it correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Simon Holland, if in section 2D, there's two sentences. One says effective teacher and then also receive support from a qualified and effective educational support professional. I'm not sure I'm hearing it as adding qualified to the previous sentence, but maybe keeping them consistent. And maybe are you suggesting we just go with effective for both?
That'd be correct.
Okay, so removing the words qualified and is that, that's fine, okay.
Thank you, Trustee.
So we have two recommendations for changes. It's making it effective for both, so that we're consistent, and certainly with the understanding of why the difference between effective and qualified, and then with the addition of what that means under definitions. If we aren't using qualified, if we're taking qualified out, then it doesn't need to be in definitions.
Just effective.
Just effective would need to be in definitions.
And just reference the professional growth system for human resources. Perfect.
Make good comments. Any others? Dr. Feimster?
I guess I'm questioning why would we take out qualified?
Why would we take out qualified?
Right.
And
Because
go ahead.
teachers need to be qualified. Effective is just a part of the evaluation process. So what would be the benefit of taking it out, I guess? That's my question.
Mr. Friedman, you spoke to that earlier in the recommendation. Would you mind?
Just there's a movement of, moving away from the highly qualified term. I don't think we have an issue, either way if we put in qualified. I do know that our ARL teachers and our option teachers that come on are not necessarily right away qualified. Correct.
But
You want to address more of that?
Sure.
Dr. McNeil?
So for the record, Kristen McNeil, Deputy Superintendent. So what we've tried to do with our policies is make sure, obviously, that they're aligned with federal law.
Right.
So that's where the old NCLB language is coming from, Trustee Feimster, is with the, as far as highly qualified.
Well, I'm not saying highly, I'm just saying, I understand that, the highly, but qualified is, I think, important.
And those would be taken into considerations as far as licensing procedures.
Right.
It really wouldn't be something that we would necessarily place into a policy. We're trying to align it with the new ESSA law, as Mr. Friedman had mentioned. So that's the reason that we were suggesting the removal of qualified. It's obviously not to intend that our teachers are not qualified.
Okay.
They absolutely are.
Okay.
That clarification answer your question? Yes, no?
It's good enough, thank you.
Oh, okay. Trustee Meir, you're leaning in, I think you're ready, okay. Any further discussion on agenda item 4.06? Yes. Oh, wait, right, the comments. Yes.
There were two other questions. One was about whether we wanted to incorporate anything about the adjusted diploma, since that has been a subject of some controversy, and then any responses you all want to make to those public comments that were attached to the agenda.
Absolutely, trustee. Our thinking or reasoning behind the reason adjusted diplomas were not as part of this is the intent of the policy was to set the expectations for our students with disabilities. An adjusted diploma we would consider a graduation requirement, and that can change and may even change, as you know, in regards to what the state is proposing for the year. So if we, I think as a district, at least what we would propose is if those do change, we would want to include that as part of our graduation requirements policy, maybe make that a regulation or something. In regards to the, I'm sorry.
No, I was just, and public comment.
And public comment. We did receive public comment, I believe, from WESPA. We did include 4 principals from WESPA who worked for the 19 months that we did. Was it 19 months? It was 19 months on the policy. So we did have principal representation of 4 principals on that. We did review each of the comments or suggestions or questions within the comments or public feedback. We believe the majority, if not all, were really more operational in measure, discussing allocations, discussing the role of central office support for services, and why we don't necessarily disagree with some of these topics or issues. Those are being addressed by area superintendents, by executive directors and whatnot, and we did not feel that they were appropriate more for that policy level.
Thank you very much. Vice President Holland, other questions that you wanted to put? Any further discussion on agenda item 4.06? Okay, seeing none, we are ready for a motion at the desire of the board. Trustee Mayor?
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
Did your motion does not incorporate any of the things we suggested, or does it?
Yes. As amended, adding those items to the content.
Okay, so we want to move for approval as amended based upon the discussion. Is that detailed enough?
I have a 2 minute.
Sure.
Talk to chief of staff.
Okay, sure. Well, we'll have a 2-minute mini recess. Let's get it right.
You know what, chit-chatting, I think what we need to do is, these initial things like the Teachers Association and all of them that just have initials, like here, they just had about 4 of them, they used initials, acronyms, and I think that, the new members don't have a clue, because I don't have a clue after 6 years on this board. It would be really beneficial to us all if they'd say Washoe County Educators Association or whatever, so that we know what they're talking about.
Very good point, Trustee Mayor.
We're fine.
Fine with approved as amended?
Yeah.
Okay, and that incorporates those changes that were discussed?
I think it provides enough guidance for staff to make the changes.
Okay, comfortable? Yes, Trustee Frankel?
Just a quick question, and that's to legal counsel as well. I know that at this point this is final approval, and we've gone through the public review process. Do you deem that the changes that we're suggesting in the content of the policy rise to the level of requiring it to go out again?
Well, that's what we were talking about, and we think it's probably de minimis at this point. I mean, it's been discussed, and so we think it's okay.
Okay, good question, Trustee Frankel. Further discussion? So there is a motion on the floor. It has not been seconded. The motion was to approve agenda item 4.06 as amended.
I'll second.
And now we do have a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? The motion is carried, and let the record show it is unanimous. Staff, thank you for your work, and thank you for those changes. Agenda item 4.07. Agenda item 4.07, this is revision of Board Policy 9100 pertaining to committees of the board, and just including some clarifying language related to the role of advisory committees. And there was a question on that and answer submitted, so we want that on the record. Trustee Holland?
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry to be parsing words. My question had to do with, there is a reference in the policy statement to specifically excluding the ability for committees to, quote, address staff or student complaints, close quote. And I absolutely recognize that we don't want advisory committees commenting on things like grievances, things that are private issues or confidential issues. And that being said, there are from time to time things that are initiated as a family complaint, for example, that may be something that an advisory committee perhaps we might benefit from having public input and a public look at them. And I suggested that perhaps we could add unless directed by the board to do so. So they are excluded from looking at staff and student complaints unless directed by the board to do so. And I just wanted to offer that and provide an opportunity for Chief of Staff Lasik to respond.
All right, good afternoon, David Lasik, Chief of Staff for the record. And I believe what you're referring to is on page 2, section E, where it says such committees should exclude direct or indirect influence on district staff responsible for the development of policy or programs, or that address staff or student complaints or grievances. The purpose, this language comes actually directly from Dr. Alsbury, your consultant, and that is lifted from one of his policies on this. It's meant to say that committees do not give direction to staff, and they're not responsible for investigating complaints. And so, for example, if a complaint, a Title IX complaint is submitted, there's a district process for investigating that complaint. For that, it's the example I also gave was a parent, let's say, who had a concern about the curriculum for sexual education, for example. They could come to that committee, offer public comment at that committee meeting for the SHARE committee who's responsible for developing that curriculum and making that recommendation to the Board of Trustees. That process still happens. It's not to say that that process wouldn't happen. It's ultimately, I guess, a board decision how you want to handle that. But at this time, committees have not been charged with investigating staff complaints or parent complaints because we have a district process for how that is handled.
No, please, go ahead.
I might, and I guess my intent is not so much to have committees investigate, but to have, as you stated, the opportunity for an advisory committee that is related to a subject about which a complaint is being voiced, for that advisory committee to be able to hear that. So, and I appreciated having been staff. I definitely get the distinction, and I certainly would, ask for what my colleagues feel about that. I just, for me, it's part of making us inclusive and really, making sure we're walking the talk on engagement with our community. And I just open it up if anybody has an idea or a thought or comment.
Let me say back to you my understanding. What you're looking for really is for when, if something, and it may not be a complaint, it may be an idea, it could be something, anything that would come up to a committee to allow an opportunity for the committee to find out more about it and advise the board. Mm-hmm. Am I reading what you're saying correctly?
That is absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I think, I'm sorry, may I chime in?
Mr. Rombardo, please.
Yeah, as an advisory committee, that's already in their purview, is to come and advise you. So I think they already are doing that. So I'm confused, and only because I'm going to help draft this at some point. Because that's what they have the ability to do right now. Is that?
That's correct.
Please,
and
please.
This language does not preclude that from happening.
I thought you were getting ready to chime in.
Well, I think we have to talk about this. So if a complaint is lodged in a committee, what does that look like so we all understand it? Because if it is a true complaint, it does have to go through the process, so it's well documented. So versus, depends on what it is, because I think there is public comment, like they don't like something, versus a true complaint. I think that's where we're a little caught. Right. I think that has to be the discussion. If I'm complaining about something that happened at my school, well, that's very different from the committee, because you still would have to go back and follow the process to talk to the principal, like and follow the channel, versus safety, right? There's complaints about traffic, and maybe it's Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. So while they're up at a committee talking about, well, we noticed roads and what is school police doing? So that's because that's not really, it's a complaint, but it's not very specific. It's global. So I think it depends on what that complaint looks like, because traffic and schools and safety would come to the Safe and Healthy Commission. That's a larger issue versus somebody saying the teacher was going 100 miles an hour, right? That's different. Two different things, two different complaints handled two different ways. So I think that's where we're getting stuck.
Here's the statement in the policy. Such committees should exclude direct or indirect influence on district staff responsible for the development of policy or programs, or that address staff or student complaints or grievances. Perhaps, and again, I don't like to make work for everybody, but I do like it to be clear later when anybody else is reading it. Perhaps we could say, or that address staff or student complaints or grievances for which existing processes or that can be handled by existing complaint processes or something like that. In other words, you already have a process for student or staff grievances or complaints, but there may be things that would come to advisory committees that begin as complaints that don't have another process. They don't have another place to go with it besides that committee. Just
go ahead, Trustee Frankel.
And again, I don't want to wordsmith at this point, but I think part of the problem with the sentence is the way it's structured, and it's not clear or that address staff or student complaints or grievances. So that they should not they should exclude direct or indirect influence on district staff that address staff or student complaints or grievances. I'm trying to make sure I understand how the sentence is structured, what that second sentence is saying, that they should not be addressing staff or student complaints. if there is an existing process in place. And if that is what that means, then we do need to reword that second phrase to make that particularly clear. Add another verb. I think it's just not clear, and I think that's part of the confusion.
Syntax.
Yeah, the syntax, thank you, that's the word.
Trustee Mayor?
You know, I really feel there's been so many issues brought up about this particular policy, and I can see, you know, the differences and everything. I think we ought to return this to the policy-making committee to clarify language and the roles, and then come back with it for final approval after that's been done through the policy committee.
Well, that would be the appropriate place to do the wordsmithing. That being the case, we do want
I think it's
it to
more
be
than
clear.
word smithing. I think it's a little bit. It could go either way, you know, and it isn't really clear to me anyway. And I feel that if it goes to the board policy committee, then we can work this out and then bring it back here.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. Trustee Holland?
One other idea, if we look at the whole paragraph, so committees and their individual members may not speak or act for the Board of Trustees. Expectations and authority will be carefully stated in board policy or committee bylaws. So it really is covered, and we could just eliminate the last sentence. Because the authority of the committee is already in the committee's bylaws and board policy, so we don't need to confuse ourselves with what we're excluding from them. Does that work?
That works.
That's actually clearer.
It's clear that way, and the bylaws of all the committees are very explicit in how they operate and their charge.
Trustee Mayor?
Yes, that simplifies it to just omit that last sentence.
Okay. Now, again, would that mean, does it go back out, or is that de minimis? Mr. Rombardo?
Well, it's a tough call because we're eliminating an entire sentence. However, we're basically going back to the way it's been already. The public's been put on notice that every committee, subcommittee is going to have their own policies and their own bylaws. So I don't really think, I'm trying to think of how it can negatively impact the public. I think it's fine. I think it's de minimis because we're taking it out, and here's my reasoning. We're taking it out and just really basically going back to what we already have. So I don't see any impact to the community. There's no substantial change otherwise.
That makes sense. Okay, so what we're considering is down to section, subsection E. Subsection E, one subsection E, we're considering removing that last sentence, which was the suggestion was to add it, and we're going back and understanding that it's clearly stated in board policy and committee bylaws anyway, so it doesn't have to be more restrictive. Further discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for that if if the board so desires at this time.
Move approval with the amendment of taking out the last sentence in that section D.
Second.
I think it's section E now.
Oh, it is E. Pardon me, correction, section E.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show that that is unanimous. Thank you, Chief of Staff Lazik. We'll go down to agenda item 4.13. 4.13, this is approval of master services agreement with Progressive Therapy for educational and educational-related services in connection with the Nevada Department of Ed Social Workers and Other Licensed Mental Health Workers Grant. This is up to $1.196 million, and we do see the staff coming into position, so thank you very much. I'll turn this over to you, Trustee Holland, for the question, and we're going to ask staff to provide responses.
Thank you, Madam President. On this item, I thought it would be good. It's a pretty sizable contract, and I thought it would be great in light of our informed oversight responsibility that Dr. Ellsbury had outlined for us, for staff to give us just a few items. And I think it's a great practice for us to do it all the time anyway. the following questions. What other proposers applied? Why was this proposer chosen? What were the criteria for review of the proposals, and who reviewed the proposals? So if we could just get that on the record, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Certainly, right.
Please identify yourself.
Right. Lauren Olin, Director of Grants for Washoe County School District. So, President, Superintendent, and Board of Trustees, I did respond to these, and so I think right now I'm just going to read into the record what we responded to Trustee Holland. So, how this came about was, just to give you a little background, we did apply for a social worker grant through Nevada Department of Ed, and through that grant, it specifies in NRS statute and in the RFP, which is request for proposal for the grant, that we have to hire contractors. So we cannot hire social workers as employees, so we have to hire them as contractors. So we've had 3 rounds of funding for this. Originally, we were awarded 4 social workers, and then the state came back and said, oh, we have some more money, so we're going to give you 13 more. And then they came back at the end of November and said, okay, we're going to give you 38 more. All the money has to be expended by June 30th. So we contacted NDE because we've been having problems trying to hire people through contracts, because we do have a process where people have to carry a lot more insurance on their policy, and then we were hiring people, and then they realized that they had a bill for their services, so they weren't getting a regular paycheck. So it really came to a head, and so I called NDE and asked them if they had some suggestions for us. So they asked us to contact Clark County, who has been working with some outside contractors for this, because they have the same problem, just multiplied by 10 times. I think they've hired over 100 social workers under this grant. So we did get the name of 2 contractors. One was Maxim Healthcare Solutions that does not serve Northern Nevada. At this time, the other company was Progressive, who does serve Northern Nevada, and they do have staff in this area. We also contacted Manpower, which is a local hiring company, and they declined to participate because they did not want to assume the liability of hiring staff that would have to work with high-risk children. So we wrote up a contract based on what the NRS and the RFP for the social worker grant had outlined. It's very strict. And so Progressive did meet the criteria in the RFP, and they were able to have the ability to hire highly qualified personnel in a timely manner, and that's key because the clock is ticking, and we only have about 5.5 months. And there's also a very strict salary restrictions under this grant, so we cannot deviate from that at all. We can't offer people more or less. It's based on what their licensure is on. Also, they have the ability to work with school principals and school counselor administrators to ensure that the school social workers that we hire are a good fit for the schools. They are experienced with working with both large and small school districts. As I said, they've already worked with Clark County, who's considered the 5th largest school district in our nation, and they've also worked with Florida and Philadelphia. They also have the ability to provide multiple levels of support, which includes screening the candidates for us and doing pre-interviews, so that once they have a pool of candidates, then we can go ahead and screen them and hire them much quicker than we were able to before. And also they have a local manager here in Reno, so if we do have problems, if we get a social worker hired and the school principal or the head counselor says, this really isn't the best fit for us, we can talk to the local manager and say, what can we do to move this person to maybe another school that might be a better fit or find somebody else altogether. So we've had some pretty extensive meetings with them to see if they can meet all this criteria. And then the final question I believe that you asked was who reviewed the proposal. So of course, the grants department reviewed the proposal along with the counseling staff, the Office of Student Support Services, and our purchasing department.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the great work that was done to prepare for this, and it's always nice for the public to get to know the great work that you did, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Olin. Any other questions on agenda item 4.13? Okay, I'll entertain the motion at this time if that's the pleasure of the board.
It's my pleasure to recommend approval. Thank you.
The second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. Thank you very much for thoroughly responding to those questions. Then a final consent agenda item 4.15. This is regarding the ESIP program of the early separation recommendation for the ESIP program, and I see our Chief Human Resources Officer, Ms. Dawn Huckabee, is in position. Thank you so much, Vice President Holland.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Huckabee, thank you. I just wanted to quickly, for the public record, let folks know what the eligibility requirements are for the early separation incentive programs, just so we had that on the record in the decision.
Absolutely, and this is a part of the board packet. It's attachment B, so it is on public record. We had put together what the qualifications are for our early separation incentive program. Also, we put in what the maximum amounts were for each of the respective groups and what the caps are for those respective groups, so that all of that information is available. It is online. If there's specific groups that you'd like me to speak about, I can do that, but it is a part of the board packet, attachment B.
And I think that came out after the original release, just if people are looking for it.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
It was not in the original packet, but we added that in there as an attachment prior to posting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ms. Huckabee.
Great, so that detailed information is there. Are there any specific questions for any of those areas from an eligibility standpoint? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the fiscal year 2016-17 early separation incentive program recommendations for certified education support professionals and professional, technical, and non-bargaining unit employees who meet the eligibility requirements pursuant to their respective collective bargaining and employment agreements.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please there is discussion. Trustee Mayor?
I'm just wanting to vote no on this as I have.
Will you please turn your mic on, sir? Just get your mic on. Yeah. Yes.
I'm going to vote no on this as I have in the past with the hard time gaining public teachers and public to fill other positions in our school. I don't think we should be paying people to leave. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. You have a qualified person with 20 years and you're going to pay them to leave, and then you have a hard time filling the position. And I just feel that I don't think it's right, so I'm going to.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Davis. I see you'd like to respond. Thank you, Trustee Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. I think for a point of clarification that this is a negotiated item and it would have to be negotiated out of their contract with their bargaining unit, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
This is a part of the negotiated agreements for the associations, and so that's why it's brought forth to the board.
So when that would be brought back to us at that time, that is when the board would have an opportunity to have that discussion, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Trustee Mayor.
I think it should be one of the major items for negotiation, because 20 years, that's a blink in the eye. And then they're getting all this experience, and then all of a sudden you're going to pay them to leave when you can't fill teaching positions and other positions. I just don't think it's right. So I hope we put it higher on the negotiation table then down at the bottom when hour 24 arrives.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. And for today's agenda item, it's approving the list that we do have before us. No, just to make sure we're staying on the agenda. So we did have a motion and a second, and we did have some discussion. Thank you, sir. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Aye.
The motion is carried. Let the record show as 6-1. Thank you. Or 1-6, depending upon your perspective. It's all perspective, Trustee Mayor. It's all perspective. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item that we're going to get accustomed to seeing this agenda item now. Agenda item 5, legislative items. This is for our preliminary review of the Washoe County School District legislative platform for the 2017 Nevada legislative session. This is for information and discussion only, and then before us is our Director of Governmental Affairs, Ms. Lindsay Anderson.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, and Board of Trustees. Welcome. Nice to see you all. And she's right, you'll probably see me more than usual for the next 6 months, which I'm excited about. Just quickly before we start here, I just wanted to convey a message I was asked to convey earlier today at the County Commission meeting, where they did the first reading of the ordinance, which will is the next step in moving forward on the passage of WC1. But when I was there today, they saw me in the audience and wanted to extend their gratitude as working as a regional partner during the flood, and we're grateful that we opened up our schools as shelters and we're partners with them and appreciate our efforts. So I'm just the messenger in that, but conveying that message from earlier today. So on to the official business on the agenda here today is that you have been presented with a preliminary platform for the legislative session coming up in 2017. And in the staff report, it just mentions that the reason we have a legislative platform is to give guidance and instruction to your legislative team as we see bills come up. Obviously, bringing every single piece of legislation back to the group to discuss is just simply not practical. And so this gives us a really good sense of the things that this board stands for and helps us to filter through different pieces of legislation in a timely manner that better fits the legislative process. So I'm not going to go through all of it for you. I think you were provided with the one from the 2015 session as well as the 2015 Invest document. And I just wanted to explain what that was. In fact, just today, Superintendent Davis and I received the 2017 version, which we will put in your hands also. But Invest is the legislative platform put together by the Superintendents Association about their joint legislative platform. And then I believe it's ultimately endorsed by the School Boards Association too. And so just quick background, I'm channeling my inner Joyce Haldeman. About 10 years ago now, 12 years ago, the legislature said it would be really nice if we knew what everybody believed in terms of education, so they couldn't kind of pick apart different pieces. And so the superintendents and school boards came together to produce this document. So this, you'll notice that what's in the Invest 2017, I think really corresponds well with what's in this preliminary platform. And then the Clark County School District adopts a similar document. And so we all kind of work together. They each have their differences and we represent our own value system, but as a whole, they generally speak to the same issues. This one that you're seeing today from us really, I think, captures what we expect to be the big legislative education topics coming this session. Obviously, the governor's state of the state is next week, and so we'll hear a little bit more about what he's planning. But from what we know at this point in time, I think this really addresses the key points in there. So happy to make any changes. I will plan to come back to you at the meeting at the end of January for final approval of this legislative platform, and then we take all this really ugly text and we make it into a really pretty document like this that we can hand out and something we can be really proud of in Carson City. So happy to answer any questions.
I did know there was one question that I think came from Trustee Holland, but I thought it was a good question. So this would be a great time to share that with everyone.
Thank you, Madam President. Hi, Lindsay. Nice to see you. I guess it wasn't a question so much as just, is there a place where we could include reference to vocational and technical training? I know under the school choice section, we talk about district-sponsored charter schools, industry-aligned employment specialties, adult education options, and school-within-a-school programs. And I know that there is a legislator who is very anxious to have us consider vocational and technical training. So I just wanted to have you have an opportunity to talk about that on the record.
Looks like you're going to punt.
Yeah, I think Superintendent Davis is going to take the background information that we got and deliver it for you, but I know who you're talking about. We've also worked with him too, so that's certainly not the first time we've heard that language.
And I've met with him also. So historically, the term vocational stopped being used in like the 90s. It's somewhat an antiquated term, unfortunately. It's interesting because people who are from that era still remember vocational. We get funded through the Perkins loan, the federal loan for those things, and that is also have been removed from the federal loans as it relates to vocational. We actually tied the terms to what's consistent with the Perkins grant and what we're seeing with the Nevada revised statute, so it's all in alignment. As many of you know who went out with me into the public for community meetings, that was one of the things that we got challenged on a lot. And it's more a shift, right? It's not that we don't offer home ec. We just have a fancy name for it now, right? And so like educating the public that some of those things still do exist. And so basically the true reason is the district had worked decades to get away from vocational because it created a system of you take a trade because you can't go to college, right? If you go to vocation. And so as a country, we tried to move away from that, saying use a larger term for any child to be successful. So that's for public record why.
If I may, yeah, and I appreciate that clarification. I don't know that, all of us would understand what industry-aligned employment specialties mean. And maybe there's, a different word. You all have done an amazing job in the district of career and technical education, and, maybe it's career education versus vocational. But I just wanted to offer that and also, appreciate a partner who was trying to be helpful to us.
So if, Dr. Taylor, if it's okay with you, I'll just point out one place where I think some of this language is addressed. So under the college and career readiness section, we draw attention to increased opportunities for certification and career pathways. And I think particularly that certification language goes to a specific, trade sort of feeling that we've really embraced in the district. So hear you, and we'll keep our eye out for those opportunities also.
And I think you're right, it's an education process, because I think we were talking the same thing in essence, but the language was just different from an era.
I think the language that's under college and career readiness, so really kind of seems like it hits to what the input that you got from our partner wanting to be of help to us. So that's good. That's good. Other comments? I know this is not for action. This is for information and discussion. We will see Ms. Anderson often. Trustee Mayor, and then Trustee Kelly.
I had a comment, and this is to the whole process. I think the state coming together really, really helps with the State Administrators Association, School Board Association, because there's so many Assembly and Senate districts that cross school district bounds. So you got people that represent Lincoln County and Elko County, and if we're not all on the same page and we're hassling, it becomes a tug of war between different bodies. So I know the effort that you guys put into this, and I appreciate it. And I think the document's very well done, and I think that we should support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. Clerk Kelly?
Yes, Lindsay, if the governor in his State of the State address brings up something education-wise that was unexpected or something major, would you then take this draft and tweak it, or is this draft, you think, not something that wouldn't be changed regardless of what he says?
These are sensitive. Thank you. Part of the reason that we don't ask for final approval right now is because we know between now and the time I'll be back here, a lot of things will happen. And I know you probably remember, Trustee, but at least in 2015, there were some big announcements made at the State of the State that we hadn't expected and didn't incorporate. So that's why we do this, for the first chance for you to provide any feedback, wait and see what we hear from our executive branch, and then we'll come back at the end of the month to kind of have a final plan. But thank you for bringing that up. I would not expecting any surprise announcements, but I probably would have said that the last couple times too. So,
Great question, Trustee Kelly. Any other feedback, input from Ms. Anderson as we forge forward? All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your work, and we will see you soon. Okay, on to agenda item 6. This is 6.01 discussion, and these are presentation, discussion, information, or action items. Discussion and action to adopt Board Resolution 17-001. This is the 2017A School Improvement Bond Resolution authorizing the district to issue up to $60 million of general obligation rollover bonds to finance acquisition, construction, improvement, and equipment of school facilities pursuant to the district's capital improvement plan. This is for possible action, and before us we see our CFO, Tom Zazinski.
Thank you, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board, and our student representative. For the record, Tom Zazinski, Chief Financial Officer. For the benefit of our new board members, first of all, congratulations on your positions, and secondary, congratulations to our officers on their new elected positions. So to clarify, this is the last step in the process of the issuance of the rollover bonds. I want to clarify that these are part of the 2015 legislatively approved 10-year extension rollover bonds. This is not the WC1 sales tax bonds, so it's important for people to distinguish between the two. Just for clarification points, WC1, as Lindsay pointed out, first reading of the ordinance today, second reading of the ordinance at the end of the month. We're on track to get the tax implemented beginning of April, and I will start bringing you board items for issuance of those bonds starting next month, and with anticipated issuance of those bonds in June, July timeframe. But back to this one.
Tom, if you would, just for
Sure.
as you get
Yep,
back to
you
this,
bet.
for the sake of the new trustees, just talk a little bit about the rollover bonds.
Sure,
and
sure.
so they have a little idea of where it comes from. and
Yeah,
so on.
you bet. So in 2015, the legislature took action to continue our 10-year rollover bonds that 10 years prior to that were taken to the public for approval, whereby we froze our property tax rate at 38.85 cents. So if you looked at your property tax bill, you'll see two components for the school district. 75 cents is committed to our operations, and 38.85 is committed to district's debt or capital funding. So that expired in 2012, and the legislature took action and extended that rollover not only for us, but any district that had it in the state of Nevada for another 10-year period, all part of the governor's effort to fund capital construction, knowing that he'd made huge efforts in the Tesla, the industrial park down south with the Faraday projects and whatnot. So both Clark County, Washoe County, and a number of other smaller districts had their 10-year rollover bonds. Again, property tax related rollover bonds. WC1 is distinguished and separate from that in that just went to the electorate and approved on November 8th, whereby we increased our sales tax by 0.52 percentage point. Again, separate and distinct. So sales tax, property tax, two different funding streams. So does that help? Any questions on that? Okay. So let me go back to these bonds. So let me recap what's happened on these bonds. This started back on November 29th, whereby I brought to the board a Bond Oversight and Debt Management Commission resolution, which this board adopted then. On December 9th, I went to the Debt Management Commission, and I see Trustee Frankel there. She serves on that commission, and we got their authorization unanimously to authorize up to $70 million of debt issuance. Today I'm bringing forward to you that we're only going to issue $60 million of that $70 million authorization. On December 15, the Capital Funding Protection Committee was presented with proposed projects by our Chief Operating Officer Pete Etchard and Joe Kabika, our Chief Facilities Officers. In short, these were additions to Demonte Ranch High School, funding to purchase land for new schools, including elementary, middle, and high schools, comprehensive plans for high schools, and plans for the South Meadows Elementary School. Also on December 15th, as required for rollover bonds, the oversight panel also met and approved these projects, or more importantly, the funding for these projects on that same day. On December 20th, the Board of Trustees were presented with these projects by Mike Cate, the chairman of the Capital Funding Protection Committee, along again with Pete Etchard and Joe Kabika, and the board approved those projects. So during this period of time, I've also been working with our bond counsel, Swinstein and Stern, who represents a vast majority of entities in North and the South and throughout the state. and our financial advisor, Marty Johnson from J&A Consulting, to work on the preliminary official statement and the official statement. Last week, I had conference calls with the rating agencies whom we work with, Moody's and Standard & Poor's. We're expecting to get those ratings back in the next couple days. And so the final step is to bring this resolution to you to get your authorization so that I can move forward with the scheduled sale of these bonds on January 24th. So with that, I'd be glad to entertain any questions.
See no questions for Mr. Zazinski? Oh, Trustee Holland?
I was just going to be prepared to make a motion.
I am prepared to accept it.
President Taylor, I have public comment on this item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you so
Sorry.
much. Please.
Jeff Church.
Welcome, Mr. Church. You know the routine, sir?
Sure. Am I on?
You're
Okay,
on. Yes,
wonderful.
yes, you are.
Greetings again. For the record, my name is Jeff Church. I do intend to appear before you from time to time to talk on some of these issues, especially some of the bonding money. I intend to be respectful, although somewhat direct perhaps, and I'm not some Sam Dene just going to come speak. I'm going to be armed with facts and figures. And so as we talk about this agenda item on these general obligation bonds, I wanted to bring a couple items of concern to your attention, items of extreme concern. All these matters are a matter of record from the December 10th, 2015 oversight meeting and from the December 15th, 2016 oversight meeting, and I invite you to look at those. First of all, over my objection, and in violation of Nevada revised statute, the committees, the oversight committee, only met once in 2016 and not since December of 2015. They never submitted the required reports to the state as required by Nevada revised statute. I find this troubling, and it denies me my opportunity to have spoken before those boards. Second of all, as reflected in the minutes of the 2015 meeting, and I'm going to read it verbatim. This is a quote. Let me find it here. Quote, $35 million being approved today will be used for facilities improvement this school year. Then it goes on to say, quote, Washoe County School District is proposing to issue a bond not to exceed $35 million. This is tentatively scheduled for initially $20 million and then $15 million later in the year. So what's my point here? My point is at the 2016 meeting, again, we had no opportunity to speak in between then. The issue came up to the oversight board and they said, well, what happened to that $35 million that we authorized you to spend? And the quote, as near as I can remember it from Mr. Pete Eckhart, was, quote, we put it in the bank pending the outcome of WC1. Now I'm shocked and I'm troubled, and I'm asking you to look into this. What I hear in my mind is, for political reasons, the Board of Trustees told us to spend this money. The Oversight Committee, by Nevada Revised Statute 393, told us to spend the money. We told them that we were going to spend the money, and we put it in the bank. Why did we put it in the bank? So WC1 would pass. That's my interpretation. Whatever happened, whatever the reasoning, did the Board of Trustees ever approve not spending that money? During this time, if you remember the news, we had leaky roofs, we had damage, we had emergency repairs. That money sat in the bank, according to the quote from Mr. Eckhart, while those damages occurred, while roofs leaked, while, oh, we have to pass WC1 because we have leaky roofs. I'm asking you to look into this. I'm asking when you're done here today that you send an email to the people in charge and say, is Mr. Church right or is Mr. Church wrong? And I've got 5 seconds left. If you let me expand, and you probably won't, I'd like to discuss some of that bond money.
You know we're out of time, Mr. Church.
Yeah, I do.
But I know that you'll be back again and you can discuss it at that time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here. Do we have other public comment, JJ? No. Okay. Seeing no other further public comment, we'll get back to Vice President Holland. Your motion.
Thank you, Madam President, and I appreciate, Tom, the great work that the team has done. I know there is a lot involved in this, and I appreciate the work of the citizen committees who have been very diligent and very respectful of their responsibilities in this. So I would like to move that the Board of Trustees adopt Board Resolution 17-001, the 2017A School Improvement Bond Resolution authorizing the district to issue up to $60 million of general obligation rollover bonds.
Thank you, Vice President Holland. Is there a second? Seconded by Trustee Mayor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show that it is unanimous. Thank you very much for your work and getting us in position to do some great things. We're building schools. Our final agenda item, and as I see our Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer before us, this is a presentation by staff on outreach and community engagement regarding those capital projects following passage of WC1. This is for presentation and information only. Ms. Payne, we will turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you very much, President Taylor. For the record, Irene Payne, Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer for the school district. It's a pleasure to be in front of this new Board of Trustees, so welcome, and I'm excited to work with you. I was supposed to be joined here today by Riley Sutton, but I'm afraid we have all been usurped by President Obama, because as a former staff member to the President, both during the campaign and while the President's been in office, Riley got an invitation to go to the final presentation in Chicago. So he left this morning. So you've just got me this afternoon, I'm afraid. What I thought might be really helpful, just to start off the presentation today, particularly for our new board members, just to start off by giving some context in terms of how we actually got here. So as a very quick refresher, we all remember that we could absolutely not advocate, but my goodness, could we educate? And that's exactly what we did. Many of the people around this table and behind me attended, conducted so many meetings over the last 2 years, everything from Rotary to business meetings to actually going to people's living rooms and talking to small groups. No request for a meeting was ever went unfulfilled. We produced many materials, many marketing and communication materials, obviously both in English and in Spanish, from booklets to frequently asked questions. We developed the overcrowding website. We developed the data gallery, posted so many videos and photographs that, and we posted them in such a way that people could download them. And we regularly sat down with station managers, news directors of all the TV stations, the Spanish media outlets and new media. We took them, we sat with them, we took them on tours of our buildings. We pretty much gave the media unprecedented access to people, to buildings, to information, to data. And what that did for us is it led to an unprecedented amount of media coverage as we went into that election day in November. And I wanted just to share with you a very small sample of some of that media coverage we received. So JJ, if you're ready to play that video, that would be lovely.
First off, Zach, what is a sump?
Well, Kristen, I've been saying it over and over for the last 3 weeks. It's just fun to say.
One of the oldest schools in Washoe County is in need of a makeover. Colo 8 News Now's Catherine Van is taking us through schools in Washoe County that are in desperate need of repairs.
Yeah, those stair treads torn apart. For the past 3 years, this was Caroline Hatcher's classroom.
It's a really difficult time teaching out here. It's tough.
That leak and several others are caused by air pockets.
You see another big one right over there, another one over there.
Colo 8 News Now's Catherine Van continues our coverage of schools in trouble.
Built in the 60s on the side of a hill, Hug High School has gone through decades of wear and tear.
If you think it's hot outside, just head into one of Pine Middle School's classrooms. The AC has been down for almost a week.
It's only noon, and Miss Hallstrom's class is falling asleep. They would face the same problems if they opened a school in a vacant big box store.
At the end of the day, in a retrofit situation, it can cost almost as much per square foot if not the same per square foot as just building a new building.
Also in School Watch tonight, next week, the Washoe County School District will be hosting a community meeting to discuss school overcrowding.
If WC1 fails, the district will use the $20 million in funding it has to do the most critical repairs. Many aging schools need repairs to ensure that they are safe, warm, and dry. Leaking roofs, broken heating and cooling systems, and asbestos abatement are considered the top of that list. If the district can't build new schools, more schools will likely be heading to multi-track and double sessions in the near future.
And if the school board chooses not to follow our direction, they have to come back to us. So we're strengthening that oversight function.
But it stands for School Overcrowding Management Plan. The process started September 7th with a presentation on overcrowding and what the school district will look like if it doesn't get more money for capital projects.
DePoli is 65% more efficient than older middle schools like O'Brien. That's why the school district wants to model the 3 new middle schools that are being built after this one. It'll cost more initially, but it will pay for itself in less than 5 years.
Work to patch the leaky roof at Reno High School is wrapping up tonight, but the job throughout the district is far from finished. Reno High is one of more than a dozen Washoe County schools that developed leaks after the last big rainstorm. Maintenance crews worked for a few days patching 3 separate leaks at the high school. District officials say the repairs are a temporary fix and that the roof needs about $1 million in major repairs. They say it's money that the district does not currently have in its maintenance budget. 3 classrooms at the high school are out of commission for now.
So a huge thanks to Pete Achart and his team for allowing us to take the media up to the top of buildings, to the back of buildings. And it really paid off for us, as you've seen by some of the coverage. The photos and the video that we used, or that we took, was all print and broadcast ready quality, so that when we posted them on the website, the news media, social media, our community friends and partners could literally download that and use it. It was good to go. And we saw many of our photos and video being used on the TV stations and on social media, so that worked for us too. Now, I'm happy to say that these were our communication objectives of the past, and thankfully we don't need these anymore. And I can only say that to many people in this room, that messaging is that it's etched on our hearts, because we said this so many times. But luckily we can talk about, no longer necessary. We can talk about the future, and I'm here to talk about the future, and the future is one that we all hoped it would be, and it's a future of repairing and building our schools. So in terms of communications, one of the key messages that we want to, or we've already started to communicate to our community, or to our audiences, both internal and external, is that we are working quick and fast, but schools can't be built overnight. And, oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for reminding me. So one of the key objectives, communication objectives, is to make sure people understand that we are working hard and fast, but schools cannot be built overnight. So it's that managing expectations, and how we do that is to communicate everything that we are doing. And it's, goes back to transparency, showing the community what we are doing. And it's time to really involve the community, and we've already done that, but involve them at a deeper level. But let me just go back to that in a few moments. So going back to working as quickly as possible, it's time to really show everything that we're doing. So, it's how much are things going to cost? Absolutely. But, what are the processes? How do we get land? How do we go through the planning process? What are we building? What does that look like? What are we repairing? We want to tell folks there's light at the end of the tunnel, and your school will be repaired. You will have a new school, but this is what's got to happen before we get to that point. And a really good example of showing everything that we're doing is tomorrow the purchasing team, Pete's team, have a meeting with local contractors to be briefed on a new solicitation platform that allows contracts to be notified about upcoming school district projects earlier, quicker, faster, more effectively. So what we've done is we've invited the media to see that, so that they can see that already we're looking at how can we move this forward as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So to continue on the note of, showing, and I know we included in your board packet the full strategy document, but we're going to continue with the same push for earned media. So it's like it's the continuation of getting stories in the media. It was such a successful strategy leading up to the election. And we want to expand our online and our social media outreach, and we're going to enlist our community friends and partners to help us do that. We've already had people offer their expansive Facebook friends and reach, and we want to tap into that. Continuing, work that we've done before is we want to continue those tours. We want to continue to show what's happening in our buildings when we are starting to break ground and when we are starting to build. And we're doing that under what I call 3 really distinct communication lenses or frames. And the first one is joyful. We want to be thankful and respectful and happy for that investment, that trust the community has shown us. The fact that we will not stop. We are going to be proactive and persistent in showing buildings and repairs. We'd like to do that in every way possible. And if in person, by taking tours, we will do that. We're excited, and I really mean we are excited to show the community that we will repay their trust, that their investment in our schools and our students is well-founded, and we will repay that investment many times over. And it's not just the school side of this that we have to communicate. We want to show the investment side, so the impact on jobs, the impact on economic vibrancy within Washoe County. And we want to show the process of design and build, and I want to have time-lapse cameras at building sites so that we can show our schools rising from the ground. And I think it's important for us to reinforce the message that our schools, our school buildings are community assets, just like we've seen over the past weekend during the flood, that our schools regularly become evacuation centers. So they are community assets in times of crisis, but not always in times of crisis. They are there for our community. We have done a lot over the last 2 years, but what we've also done is we've asked our friends out in the community, so those friends and peers, those PR professionals, those parents, those parent groups, to look in terms of communication, to look at our messaging, to make sure that we're getting our messaging right. So I have to say huge thanks to the likes of the Glenn Group, the Abbey Agency, KPS3, the Ferrara Group, R&R Partners. We regularly reached out to them and said, is this the right messaging? Is this what people want to hear? We got good input, good advice, and at times we tweaked our messages, and at times we had robust and great discussions. And then we also reached out to all of you around this table, because we need to touch base with our community and see what it's like to look into the school district. And I want to continue to do that. So we're talking about these folks as capital ambassadors. So let's harness all that goodwill and that advocacy and that support into our capital ambassadors, who can give us advice, continue to give us advice, but to carry our message for us out in the community. And who better to carry our message, for example, is those 5 parents who were so engaged with the SOS campaign. I want them to be leading tours around our new schools. I want them to be at ribbon cuttings and to be talking to families and parents, and to be the one who the group that takes parents and families around renovated schools. Really want to engage the community at a really deep, meaningful level. I feel like we have to capitalize on the goodwill that has been shown towards the school district, and we have to make sure we don't lose that. And as I said before, the community gave us their trust, and we have absolutely no intention on letting them down. So students, of course, have to be a huge part of our communications. So there's things where we're talking about ideas such as, design competitions for promotional material. We're going to have school bands at musicians at every event, every ribbon cutting, just like we do at the State of Education and the graduation rate news conference. We're going to have handprints we're going to have competitions so a child can have their handprint in the concrete with their name underneath, and their handprint on the boilers, the new boilers, not before they've been switched on. And then, we had this idea about we could have a water balloon launcher competition to test the strength of a new roof. I mean, the sky is the limit. With a little bit of creativity, the sky is the limit. And then just looking at you folks before me, I've always talked about our Board of Trustees as being brand ambassadors, because that's what you are for the school district. What the trustees have been doing over the last 2 years has been how we, the school district, are going to address overcrowding. And now we can shift that so that you can show what we're doing to deal with overcrowding. And that is just really exciting. It's an exciting time ahead. In terms of, very quickly, what we've done so far, we have driven media coverage from day one, so the day after the election, when we had the trustees looking at those old portables at McQueen and Tracy doing a tour of schools. We've completed outreach meetings with, for example, AGC. We've met with the SOS group, the Abbey Agency. We will continue to work with those groups, and as we develop our our capital ambassadors. And then we plan to have town hall meetings periodically around big decisions so that we can get community input. The new website is about to launch soon. We're working furiously on that, and that will house everything to do with capital projects. So the status of projects, the cost, the anticipated completion date. We'll do that high resolution photos and videos so that it can be reposted, reused, downloaded. We'll answer questions. There'll be the capability for folks to ask us questions so that we can answer them. There'll be a calendar of upcoming meetings. The data gallery will continue, but we are looking at developing a new website specifically for work that is planned, in progress, or completed. Now, the data gallery is everything in terms of raw data and transparency, but over the last few months, we heard that some folks felt it was a little bit hard to navigate, maybe just a smidgen too much information. So the new website is going to be much more user-friendly. It'll have user-friendly aggregation of data and snapshots. We're currently working on a video that's going to show the school district's next steps, and that was why Jeff was filming when you came into the meeting today, so that it shows the trustees being involved in that. We're going to have competitions around posters in schools, so kids can design posters, your tax dollars at work, designed by, 6th grader. So there's a lot of work And so just hold your breath, and you'll start to see that coming down the road very, very shortly. To finish, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, I just have another short video that gives you just a little taster of the news coverage that we've driven since the election. So JJ, perfect, thank you.
Washoe County voters approved a sales tax increase, and that money would be used to pay for school repairs and, of course, to build new ones.
What would normally be a typical school walkthrough, Superintendent Tracy Davis said this one was a little extra special.
It's a great day to walk in and see an overcrowded school and to know that help is on the way.
This community stood up and said, we want to do better for our kids, and we're grateful for that.
Today, Board of Trustees got a good look at the aging portables at McQueen. While the district plans to use a lot of the WC1 funding to build 15 schools to ease overcrowding, they know that process will take time.
But repair work can begin a lot earlier because those are things that we know have to be done, and we can get to work on that very soon.
Pete Etchart with the Washoe County School District says it will likely take the next 9 years to complete all of those projects, but the district is starting to design new schools right away.
The first thing you'll see is an addition, hopefully, to DeMonte Ranch High School.
Etchart says they're hoping to break ground on that project in February or March, and he says elementary and middle schools will be next.
We hope to have a new elementary school, probably in that DeMonte Ranch area, around December of 2018. So about 2 years from now, and we hope to see our first middle school around August of 2019.
Well, before any construction begins, a capital funding protection committee must approve all of the projects. Now, that board is made up of 6 elected officials and 5 community representatives.
First order of business could be $20 million for repairs at existing schools.
We made that commitment. Our number one priority is to keep our existing schools operating.
Last night, some big funding projects were given the okay, including a new elementary school for the South Meadows and 2 middle schools in Spanish Springs and Sun Valley.
The district is looking at BLM land for a middle school somewhere on the north end of Sun Valley. It will most likely buy land from a private developer for a Kiley Ranch middle school near the Spanish Springs Library.
Just off South Meadows Parkway and Veterans Parkway, the Washoe County School District says this is where it plans to build the first school with funding from WC1.
Okay then, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, Neil, if you wouldn't mind. Trustee Frankel. Yes.
It's more of a comment just to say I am very, very pleased with what you presented today. And the thing that I think that really stood out for me and think something that's very important is the whole community engagement piece. And I loved the reference to the ambassadors, because I think there are so many people that dedicated so much time in support of this effort, and to keep them engaged, to keep them informed, and to continue to share that message with them as to where we are every step of the way, as you described. I really appreciate it. So thank you for this.
I would like to just add a question. The Capital Funding Protection Committee, which we know is a very important part of this, of our whole process, the committee that the board put in place, so we can really just have another layer of accountability. Is there any way those meetings can be, they're here, can we stream those?
I could certainly ask about that.
Yeah, so that if people can't come, but they really want to watch and follow, and a lot of times announcements are made on what kinds of things are going forward, and so just to make that available for those who can't come if they want to.
I will ask our IT department tomorrow and see if that can be done, because I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, just again, back to letting people see more.
Yeah.
I think the more we let the community see about this whole process every step along the way, the better.
Yeah.
So thank you for checking on that.
I will do.
Yes, Trustee Holland.
I also want to thank you for all the work you did leading up to November 8th, and this is fantastic, and I know many people worked hard on it, and you all provided tremendous leadership to get the word out. I'm still in shock. It's just such a wonderful thing.
It
so
is.
Thanks for this work, and thanks for all the work that led
You're
up to it.
welcome.
Superintendent Davis? Thank you, Vice
Of
President
course,
Harlan.
Irene, I want to thank you and the team for a remarkable job done during this whole, I kind of think back when we started, it was like, wow. I also want to let the trustees know that this is still evolving as we come up with more ideas to incorporate community ambassadors. Like, this isn't a one and done. This is like, as we can grow this and get better ideas, how do we continue to expand? Because we know today we had a discussion about community versus disengaged, and we really have to reach out to some of our community groups that have been disengaged too, and how do we work with the ones that are engaged. So I think it's a continuous improvement model for us as we continue this journey.
We can always get better, can't we?
And I yes, Katie, I stop everything when Katie raises her hand because I always want to hear from our students.
I think that my favorite part about all of this was how much that you described that you want to include students in this process. And I think that that's a great idea because I feel like especially with social media and everything, that it would be that for students to help with that and get everything out there. And then also for them participating in events like ribbon cuttings and everything.
Absolutely, yeah. We couldn't do it without students.
No, absolutely. Thanks for weighing in on that. I love those creative ideas because at the end of the day, if you guys aren't excited about this, then we haven't quite done it right. A comment I was going to make is, you mentioned, and I guess just maybe kind of kudos to Pete and his team. I saw a news release. I mean, for all the work that you've done together here, it could not have happened without all of those of you that went out and did presentations and answered questions and went to homes and little corners of this and that. I mean, I can't imagine. And we've all talked about that, and really thank you for it. But as you know, it continues, as you said, and just the meeting. I just wanted to comment on this. When I first read the press release about the meeting for the local contractors, and there being a new process in place to speed things up, I think that's great. That shows we know how fast this thing needs to happen, because there are parents and families that are impacted by every day that this goes on. But I think another part of that's really important is it also lets our local contractors know we want you to be a part of this. We want to at least give you an opportunity to compete and be a part of the other end of this as well. And I think that's an important message as we continue to look for community. We look for them and they look for us, and saying we don't want to just change things up and say figure it out, but we want to change things up and get your feedback and allow you to learn about that. So really kudos to you and your team that have put that together. I think that's an important part. How are they involved in this as we go forward? It impacts their families. Any other comments? I'm excited. I mean, this is a great time to be us.
I'll just add.
Yes, Trustee Raymond.
Put me to work. I am so excited for this, and whether it's on social media or out in the community, I want to help however I can as a trustee.
I promise you, we will put you to work.
Oh, yeah, good. That's right, Trustee Ennemon. We have public comment? Absolutely. Thank you, JJ.
Jeff Church.
Mr. Church, you can finish your comments now, sir.
For the record, Jeff Church, and how appropriate after my last comments that we see all the videos of the leaking roofs, et cetera. But I'm here to talk too about the future and responsible spending for WC1. I'm not here to speak against it, but we have to be responsible. Whether it's the $35 million in bonds that was not spent, whether it's $60 million in bond that you approved today, or the future WC1, I remind the board that you have to be good stewards of our spending, and that you have to comply with Nevada revised statute. Now, when this was all transpiring, I predicted that administrative salaries would be supplanted to WC1 money, and Pete Eckhart said in writing, supplantation is impossible. Various times there were promises made that the money would be used for only building construction, even on the ballot measure and the explanation, that it wouldn't be used for administration, et cetera. And instead, as we've seen the new proposed spending that was approved by the outgoing board, we have about $3 million for administrative salaries and support, whatever that is. The $50,000 for personal cars for the administrators, in my opinion, is clearly in violation of Nevada revised statute. And even if I'm just right on that piddly little $50,000, that reinforces the need for an independent contractor to be a fiscal watchdog. Think of how much money they can save over this spending. The oversight committee cannot do it in their little 1 or 2 hour meetings. And then, as I did want to cover when I was cut off, There was even talk in there about the addition to Demonte Ranch High School. That comes out at $828 a square foot. That's outrageous. Please look into it, Google it. Look up the studies of how much it costs to build a new high school. According to the respected Gwynn report, it's under $300 a square foot for a new high school. That's the recent figure they just came out with. Demonte Ranch High School cost only $35 million to build. Now they want to spend $110 to $135 million for the next high school. Somebody's got to ask some hard questions here. With inflation, Demonte Ranch High School today would be $44 million. If you go with the Gwynn report, and I even raised it a little bit to $300 a square foot, that's $72 million for a new high school. So where did we come up with $110 to $135? At your figure, it's $450 a square foot. So again, I'm asking you to be fiscally responsible. It's not being against WC1. It's not being against spending. It's being fiscally responsible as you promised us over and over. As all these studies said, you know, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to be fiscally responsible. And before the ink is dry, you've got $50,000 for cars to chauffeur the administrators. They can't get one out of the motor pool. And what happens to those cars when it's done? Because it can't go back into the general fund. That's capital money. $3 million for administrators and support when you told us there would be no administrator salary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Church. Any other comments on our last agenda item? Irene, again, thank you for your work, for your presentation, and for the work that your team is doing as we forge ahead. Okay, time for our closing items. Any closing public comment, JJ? No? Okay, our meeting is now adjourned. Our next meeting, January 24th at 2 p.m. right here in the Administration Building. Thank you, everybody. Our first meeting is in the books. Yeah.